Because of high dependence on rain-fed agriculture, when there is drought, farmers can no longer plant, the livestock is affected, and that makes livelihood within that sector of agriculture and food security rather compromised. Water is a very important resource in the region for both domestic and industrial use, but also for production of hydroelectric power. So when the water becomes, when the rains decrease in, for example, March, April, May, on average, the water is not sufficient for all this operation. But sometimes when it rains too much, there is the issue of flooding, there is the issue of contamination of water resources, and especially in some of our urban areas, this has been highly pronounced, and this disrupts business, it disrupts settlement, it disrupts the transport itself. It has been reported in many researches, but also evidenced at the local level within the fishing communities, that when there is decrease in rain, the fish don't come on shore because the nutrients and the feeding pattern of the lake cannot be supported when there is declining lake levels. However, when it rains, there is a lot of nutrients that come through the runoff, and the fish can come on shore, and then the fishermen are able to catch that fish and improve their livelihoods. So fish productivity in general decreases when rainfall decreases. I've already highlighted that there have been cases of disruption in terms of the transport system, particularly the roads and the bridges, because of heavy rains. So this needs to be addressed in the different parts of the country where there has been damages. The issue of disaster risk management, and this comes with a very high cost to the governments in terms of humanitarian aid, in terms of resettling the people, and several other requirements. I think the first one is to improve the way we monitor, the way we predict climate. So we need to improve our observations, and this comes from our meteorological services, both at national and regional. So as a national center for climate, there has to be capacity building to ensure that the staff and the equipment at the national meteorological centers are able to facilitate the role of continuous monitoring and production of weather information. The next issue is in terms of investment in a robust infrastructure that can withstand now the ongoing shocks in terms of heavy rains, in terms of flooding in many cases, so that even as we continue to see the flood, the heavy rains, we reduce on the risks, we reduce on the number of people who are affected, and we reduce on the loss in terms of the properties that we lose with this. In terms of our agriculture, we need to move away from rain-fed agriculture to kind of irrigated agriculture. And not just agriculture, but in many other sectors, there is need to undertake something called climate proofing of infrastructure. So there has to be a deliberate effort to understand the thresholds that lead to destruction of certain infrastructure, certain systems, and also research has to be done in terms of new crop varieties that are either drought tolerant, but also the fast maturing crops, because sometimes the seasons have shortened. And this means if you are growing maize in an area where the rains are becoming shorter, then you need that variety of maize or another crop that can grow faster. If you can't afford irrigation, then you bring a fast maturing crop. But lastly, I also think that there are several strategies and policies within the different sectors. These sectors need to mainstream climate change in the programming, in the plans, and also increase awareness in terms of the risks, the pending risks across different levels, across the communities, NGOs, and other stakeholders within the climate services value chain. The other recommendation is in terms of restoring the environment itself. We need to protect, we need to rehabilitate, and we need to restore degraded landscapes so that we minimize on the impact when too much rainfall comes, but also when rainfall is little, so that we provide an opportunity for nature to, I think, to be self-sustaining in terms of our wetlands, in terms of our grazing lands, and several other initiatives. Right now, the countries have developed national determined contributions, and these are like the plans that they have to address climate change, either in terms of mitigation, but also in terms of adaptation. These plans need to be implemented, but the challenge is sometimes the financial resources needed. So countries have to put a lot of effort in terms of mobilizing these resources from the international community, from the private sector, but also domestically. There has to be a clear roadmap how we are going to fund the needed investments to address climate change, both in terms of mitigation, but also adaptation. And lastly, there has to be investment in climate smart interventions, whether it's a climate smart agriculture, clean energy, and clean transport, so that together we can contribute in dealing with the root causes of climate change, both in the East Africa region, Lake Victoria Basin, but also globally.